This is the Ultimate Comedy Movie Bracket Showdown. Emotions will run high because we've got 16 of the greatest comedy movies of all time facing off to decide one winner. The past 2 weeks, I posted a poll every single day in my community section where you decided between two comedy movies. The winners of each round were decided between you and I, and if we disagreed, I went to Rotten Tomatoes for the tiebreaker. The left side of the bracket, we've got comedies just for laughs. The right side, comedies with a heart. Some of these results honestly broke my heart, and I'm sure some will make you lose your mind. So let's see who takes the crown. Starting off with round one, we've got Wedding Crashers versus The 40-Year-Old Virgin. So The 40-Year-Old Virgin, this actually isn't one of my all-time favorite comedy movies. I like it, don't get me wrong. I know this movie has a pretty big following. I wanted to be fair and not just include my personal favorite comedies, but get some diversity. Very strong directorial debut by Judd Apatow. I always really loved Paul Rudd in this movie, Jane Lynch, of course. You know, just a fun movie all around. This is not my favorite Apatow flick. Actually, the next matchup contains my favorite Apatow flick. But on the other side, we've got Wedding Crashers, and this is my all-time favorite movie of all time. You can see it part of a huge Wedding Crashers poster behind me. I am so excited. This movie is actually getting a theatrical re-release in 1 or 2 weeks, depending on when this video is released. I am so excited. I have never seen this movie on the big screen, and yeah, I am just pumped. So with that being said, obviously I'm going Wedding Crashers, and let's take a look at how you voted. Looks like you went 55 for Wedding Crashers, 45 for The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and Wedding Crashers moves on. Next up, we've got This Is 40 versus Superbad. This Is 40, as I teased in the prior matchup, this is my all-time favorite Judd Apatow movie. This is my favorite ensemble with Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann. They are so funny together. You know, this movie just shows a lot of growth and maturity as a filmmaker. I think you can really watch him through the years, and I think he really pulls it all together with this one. Just a great slice of life flick. Very real, very heartfelt. I just love it all around. This is one of my all-time favorite comedy movies. And we've got Superbad. This is one of my favorite teen comedies. Not my favorite teen comedy, but definitely up there. You know, ton of fun. So many years in the making to get this movie made. Apatow was actually a producer on this film as well. This movie actually gave us the on-screen birth of Emma Stone and Christopher Mintz-Plasse, which I always thought was really cool. But I'm actually going to go with This Is 40 here. And looking at the poll results, we've got Superbad winning 89-11. You could not have disagreed with me more. So we're going to take this to Rotten Tomatoes. This Is 40. What we're going to do is we're going to combine the critics and audiences score, and it looks like we've got 52 for the critics and 50 for the audiences. And did we watch the same movie? Like, what? Surely Superbad can beat that, and it can. It almost does it just with the critics score at 88 and the audience score coming in at 87 for a total combined score of 175. That means Superbad moves on to the next round. Next up, we've got American Pie versus Bad Santa. And you can see behind me, I've got a big ass American Pie poster and a little ass Bad Santa. We can call that American Pie's the Kim Kardashian ass-sized poster, and Bad Santa, Taylor Swift ass-sized poster. So Bad Santa, this is my all-time favorite Christmas comedy. Favorite work by Billy Bob Thornton. Such a funny movie. Every time I think of this movie, I think of the kid and his grandma and the sandwiches. Also has a surprising amount of heart in it as well. Definitely one I'm going to be rewatching this Christmas season. I actually have not seen number 2. It got horrible reviews, but someone I really respect said it's actually nowhere near as bad as the critics said. So I'm going to check that one out this Christmas as well. If you have seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. But American Pie, this is my all-time favorite teen comedy. It's my second favorite comedy overall. It's actually one of the few movies that I've ever given a 10 out of 10 on IMDb. This movie's just so unique, so relatable. I love just the story of this movie getting made. You know, first-time director, first-time writer who also went to the University of Michigan. This was the first screenplay he ever sold. He wrote it over a ski trip, Sean William Scott's on-screen debut. Obviously, I'm going American Pie. And you couldn't have agreed more because you voted 90% to 10% in favor of American Pie. This one wasn't even fair, but American Pie moves on to the next round. Next up, we've got Fast Times at Ridgemont High against Role Models. And I actually look behind Fast Times and Role Models. So yeah, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This is actually my second favorite teen comedy of all time. Favorite all-around comedy from the 80s. Really blows my mind at how well this one still holds up today despite being over 40 years old. Just so relatable even from my high school years in the 2010s. And we've got Role Models, one of my favorite dramedies of all time. It's got Sean William Scott and Paul Rudd, two of my favorite actors of all time, and two that when they're on, they are peak comedy acting. And of course, this one has Jane Lynch as well. She's just amazing. She's slowly working her way up to being one of my all-time favorite actresses. Another movie with a surprising amount of heart. With that being said, I just don't think you can really go against Fast Times here. I'm going with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. What say you? You voted 87% to 13% in favor of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Fast Times moves on to the next round. On to the left side of the bracket, with the first round, we have The Hangover versus Animal House. The Hangover, Todd Phillips is my all-time favorite comedy movie director of all time. This is my favorite movie by him. Just such A-plus performances by Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis, Ed Helms, just everyone in this movie. This is one of the better acted comedies I've ever seen. Pound for pound, this actually might be number one on my list of overall best acting, best direction. And then we've got Animal House on the other side. We've got some 70s representation. I think I like the idea of this movie a lot more than I actually like the movie itself. Don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy this movie, and this is really the modern, well, it sounds weird to say that this movie's only almost 50 years old, but it sparked what we know as the college comedy nowadays. I think my biggest issue with this movie is that it just walks the line so often of it's super grounded in reality one moment, and then the next moment it just gets super cartoony, and it's really disorienting for me. With that being said, I definitely laughed out loud several times at this movie, thoroughly enjoyed it. You really hear Harold Ramis's voice as a writer in this movie. I think he is one of the more underappreciated comedy writers of all time. With that being said, I gotta go The Hangover here. What do you say? You voted for The Hangover with flying colors, 73%, 27%. The Hangover moves on. Next up, we've got Dodgeball versus Happy Gilmore, two movies that I just recently rewatched within the last month. Dodgeball, favorite actor of all time, Vince Vaughn. This is probably my second performance by him, with number one being Wedding Crashers. This is just a super fast-paced, fun, classic comedy. Huge props to Ben Stiller as well. I've long considered him to be the most talented actor of all time, and this is definitely one of his top roles. Going up against Happy Gilmore, I don't think there's a single movie that I've watched more in my life than Happy Gilmore. Every year growing up, just road trips on the way there, the way back, sometimes at the actual destination. This movie was just always playing. This is my favorite Adam Sandler comedy. A fun, laid-back, classic comedy as well. Going between these two, this one was so close for me. I just think Dodgeball is just a better overall movie. As a whole, I think the acting's just a bit better as well. It's just better story as well. But you voted enthusiastically for Happy Gilmore with 74% of the vote versus 26% of the vote for Dodgeball. We've got another tiebreaker. Dodgeball comes in with 72% from critics, 76% from the audience. That is a whopping 148% overall. Conversely, with Happy Gilmore, we've got 65% for the critics, but the audiences absolutely loved this one, getting 85% of the vote, coming in with a whopping total of 150. It just so narrowly edges out Dodgeball by 2 points, and Happy Gilmore moves on to the next round. Next up, we've got Eurotrip versus Old School. Eurotrip, this is just my go-to watch on a lazy day. Turn off your brain and just watch something hilarious. That's Eurotrip for me. The Seinfeld writers really got this right. The three of them co-directed it together. They got a cast full of no-names. Such a bummer that this movie bombed so hard at the box office and that the only person who really had a career acting-wise from this was Michelle Trachtenberg. I mean, Scott, Jacob, and Travis, they weren't really names going into this one, and it took a while to get cult status, so they never really popped too much afterwards, and that's a real bummer because this movie is just so funny. Going up against Old School, this is another Todd Phillips comedy, and this isn't my favorite. I do really enjoy it. We already mentioned The Hangover, and actually the next matchup has another Todd Phillips comedy, but number 2 and number 3 on my Todd Phillips comedy lists are Starsky and Hutch and Due Date, but I know those don't have the same broad appeal. They don't have the same fan bases that some of the other ones on this list have, so that's why I left those ones out, and I know Old School is just so beloved. This movie, dialogue, like all of his movies, is just outstanding. Also, this has one of the best, if not the best, third acts I've ever seen in a comedy movie, and comedies are really notorious for not having good third acts, so major props to Old School there. But Eurotrip is just so much funnier, so much more iconic for me. I'm going Eurotrip. What do you say? You voted Eurotrip as well, 70-30. Eurotrip moves on to the next round. And our final matchup in round 1, we've got Road Trip versus Office Space. Road Trip, as I teased, this is the final Todd Phillips comedy on this list. This was actually his directorial debut. This is my favorite all-time college comedy. This was really right place, right time. Sean William Scott was not a household name yet. He was just fresh off of American Pie. This was his first real lead role. This movie just embodies the college spirit so well, does the road trip genre so well as well. Ironic because it's literally titled Road Trip, just gives us such a gorgeous view of the United States. And on the other side, we've got Office Space. I would say out of all the movies on this list, this one made me laugh by far the least. But at the same time, I know this has one of the biggest followings of any of the comedy movies on this list, and I do respect the hell out of this movie as well. So it really didn't feel right to not include this one on this list. I think it's pretty obvious I'm going with Road Trip in this round. But with one of the thinnest margins, you guys voted 53% in favor of Office Space, 47% in favor of Road Trip. So that means we are off to Rotten Tomatoes for another tiebreaker. Road Trip gets 59% from critics, 65% from the audience for 124. Not really surprised. Critics do not have a sense of humor at all. I'm honestly a little surprised that this movie did as well as it did and somehow performed better with critics than This Is 40. But with Office Space, we've got 82% by critics, 93% from the audience, coming in for a total of 175. Wow. Office Space moves on to the next round. And if you're into these kinds of comedy movies, then you're not going to want to miss my weekly comedy movie recommendation. This is something new that I'm trying out, and you can get access to it when you sign up for my email list, which will be in the pinned comment and in the description down below. And as a bonus, I will send you a private link to my directorial debut, which you can watch for free. But kicking off round 2, we've got Wedding Crashers versus Superbad. But Wedding Crashers, as I mentioned, this is my all-time favorite movie, regardless of genre. I think Superbad does narrowly edge out Wedding Crashers in terms of dramatics and just emotional impact, but Wedding Crashers is just so much funnier. The performances are just so much better. Not a knock to Superbad. I do really love this movie, but I am going Wedding Crashers. You disagree, though. You voted 79% for Superbad, 21% for Wedding Crashers. We know that Superbad has 175% based on the prior round, so let's look and see what Wedding Crashers got. Wedding Crashers, 75% by critics, 70% by audiences. Super respectable showing, especially for a comedy movie, but that is only 145%, which is lower than 175%. Superbad moves on to the semifinals. Next up, we've got American Pie versus Fast Times at Ridgemont High. American Pie, number 1 teen comedy of all time. Fast Times, number 2 teen comedy of all time. Fast Times is just so unique in its slice of life storytelling. American Pie is a more traditional coming of age story. I find it so cool how many main characters each of these movies have. Super unique, works so well. One's from the 80s, one's from the 90s, yet they just age so well, and they are even more relatable than any teen comedy that I can even think of the past decade. I think what does it for me with American Pie, why it just narrowly edges out Fast Times, is that it's just so much funnier. I'm going American Pie. And you agree, giving American Pie 86% of the vote versus Fast Times 14% of the vote. That moves American Pie onto the semifinals to go up against Superbad, which we will be getting to in a minute. On the left side of the bracket, we have Euro Trip versus Office Space. I'm sure I spoiled in the previous round which way I'm going here based on how I spoke about both of these movies. I think Euro Trip is just 100 times funnier than Office Space, and that's probably not an exaggeration. I think I laughed out loud twice at Office Space, and probably about 200 times at Euro Trip. Give me Euro Trip. And you agreed as well, giving Euro Trip 62% of the vote versus Office Space's 38% of the vote. Euro Trip is on to the semifinals. At our final round 2 matchup, we've got The Hangover versus Happy Gilmore, and this one was actually the single closest poll. In fact, you literally cannot get closer. This one was decided 51-49. The Hangover, I think it's just so much funnier. I think in terms of the story department as well, this one just blows Happy Gilmore out of the water. Again, Happy Gilmore, this is my most watched movie of all time. I still watch it to this day. It's thoroughly entertaining. It never will not be. You just can't compare it to The Hangover. So which one got 51%? Which one got 49%? Do we have to go to a tiebreaker? No, we do not, because The Hangover came in with 51% of the vote versus 49% for Happy Gilmore. Our semifinals are decided. Our first semifinal matchup, we have American Pie versus Superbad, the greatest teen comedy of the 90s versus the greatest teen comedy of the 2000s. You know which way I'm going already. But with that being said, I think the biggest deciding factor, because these movies are just both so relatable, so real, heartfelt. The drama of both of these movies just hits so well. When I was really going back and forth about what is it about American Pie that makes me like it so much more than Superbad, aside from it being just slightly more relatable for me and just giving more sides of the story, you just get so many more perspectives. Superbad just has Seth and Evan, but then American Pie's got Jim, Oz, Finch, Kevin, Stifler, Vicky, Jessica, Michelle. I think it's that Superbad, Seth, played by Jonah Hill, he just does such an amazing job. He's such a douchebag, and you just really hate the character, which you're supposed to. But American Pie does something so special. Steve Stifler is the douchebag in that story, and honestly, as an overall person, probably even more unlikable than Seth, but they found a way to make him just so lovable and so much more funnier, where he becomes your favorite character. It's just like magic what they did with them. I'm obviously going American Pie. Let's see what you said in the poll. You went 61% for Superbad, 39% for American Pie. We know that Superbad has 175%. Let's look at American Pie. American Pie comes in with 62% from the critics, 61% for the audiences, for a total of 123%, giving Superbad the edge and moving on into the finals. And this is the single biggest upset from my point of view. When I made this bracket, I thought American Pie, no questions asked, was going to easily win this. Just based on prior polls, based on the videos that get the most views from me, American Pie just seems to have just a bigger cult following. I did not see this one coming at all. That being said, the rules are the rules. Superbad, you win. In our final semifinal matchup, we've got The Hangover versus Euro Trip. These are number 4 and number 6 on my all-time comedy movies, but in terms of the laugh out loud, just funniest movies ever made, I would probably put these both in the top 5, top 4, maybe even top 3. I mean, these movies are just hilarious. They just have you laughing from opening credits to closing credits. They just do it so well. But I'm going to go The Hangover here. I think overall it's just a bit funnier, just a bit better. It's just not really fair. Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis, Ed Helms, they all had decades experience in the industry, whereas with Eurotrip, like the lead, Scott McElwes, who plays Scotty, like this was his first role out of college. I don't even think he had been graduated for an entire year yet before they filmed this. Like, you know, you just can't compare him to someone like Zach Galifianakis or Bradley Cooper. And you agreed, voting 77% for The Hangover and 23% for Eurotrip. This is it. We've got the finals. The Hangover versus Superbad. And really quick before I forget, I got this video idea from Sean Chandler. He did a horror movie bracket showdown using the same format. He's a really great follow. I really enjoy his videos. In terms of movies, he's the #1 most watched YouTuber on my end. I'm going to be including a link to his horror movie bracket showdown in the description. I would definitely give him a check. But who takes the crown? The Hangover or Superbad? And I really love both of these movies. These are number 4 and number 7 on my favorite comedies of all time. You know, not bad. So I was just breaking these down category by category. And first up, we've got the actors, you know, the leads. Zach Galifianakis, Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms versus Jonah Hill and Michael Cera. I'm definitely going with The Hangover, guys. They're just so much funnier. The dynamic they have gives me so many more laughs. But, you know, Jonah and Michael, definitely two very talented. And, you know, that's not to say Superbad, I was definitely laughing from start to finish as well. You know, in terms of directors, give me Todd Phillips all day over Greg Mottola. And of course, I like Greg Mottola as well. I think he did an excellent job, you know, both from the production side of directing and the performances. I just think Todd Phillips is just much better. But this is like comparing Patrick Mahomes to Jared Goff, like both super professional, super great, can both win a Super Bowl, but, you know, you just can't compare Jared Goff to Patrick Mahomes. And then last off, I think this one is just the single biggest gap. The writing team of Todd Phillips, Scott Moore, and John Lucas, like, I think they really just blow Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg out of the water. And, like, again, don't get me wrong, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg have written some absolute bangers. We're talking about, like, S tier, top of the mountain with Todd, Scott, and John versus very good, excellent with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. So, yeah, I mean, The Hangover, it just edges out Superbad in literally every category. I'm going The Hangover here. What do you say? You voted 80% to 20% in favor of Superbad. This was not even close. Pretty shocking considering this was the championship round. One of the bigger blowouts, too. So that means Rotten Tomatoes is going to decide it all. We, again, know that Superbad from the first round has 175% combined total between critics and audiences. How about The Hangover? The Hangover comes in with 84% from critics, 79% from audiences. Again, just a super strong showing for a comedy movie. But with that being said, 163 is smaller than 175, and Superbad takes the crown for the greatest comedy movie of all time. If you love these comedies, then you're going to want to check out my breakdown of every Todd Phillips comedy where I rank them from best to worst here.